probably here because you want to know what action can you take. And you can do that. There are a number of things. You can engage in practical and legal planning that will allow you to make your own decisions and keep the Department of Children and Families from your doorstep. It'll keep you out of guardianship court. It'll either keep you out of a nursing home, or if you need a nursing home, allow you to have enough assets to provide the extra care and make sure your spouse or your partner is not driven into poverty to pay for the nursing home. Remember, $76,600 and some dollars a year? It's a lot of money. Right. So what is the practical and legal planning that I'm here to talk about this morning? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through some things, some questions that you can ask yourself, some things to consider, and then I'm going to go through the types of documents that will put these things in an organized, legal, simple way for you. And you have those in the papers that is in your packet there. And so if you like, you can follow along and make a few notes, check some things off, or you can simply listen and look at that later. And what I would like to do is go through these items and then take questions at the end. So if you have a question, please make a note about that, because I certainly want to answer every question before we leave today. Okay? So what are the practical steps to legal planning? Well, it helps first to look at who. Right? Who what, okay? Who makes the decisions in your household? Who manages your health care needs? Who makes the doctor appointments? Who talks with the doctor? Who understands the medications? Who goes to the pharmacy? Who chooses insurance? Who talks to the insurance company? Who calls the ambulance if you need it? And does that person hold a healthcare surrogate designation for you? Because that's the document that permits someone to be actively involved with your healthcare, is the healthcare surrogate designation. That's a very simple form. You can get it in many different places. Many doctors' offices have copies of them. Many hospitals have them. You can get them online for free. If you want a very simple form, you can call my office or email me and I will give you a simple form that you can fill out either by hand or on a computer. Right. Who else? Who else do you want to talk to your doctors, talk to your pharmacist, talk to your physical therapist, talk to the home health professionals, talk to the insurance companies, obtain copies of your records or review your medical bills? This person would need a HIPAA authorization signed by you. Now, you've probably seen those really complex forms. Every time you go to the doctor and probably the physical therapist also, they ask you to sign one of these forms. This is an authorization that lets somebody access your records and talk to your healthcare professionals. Now, an important question, if you haven't thought about this, it bears thinking. Who do you want to make healthcare decisions if you're not able to do it? If you're temporarily unable? Now, many of us tend to think, well, I'm healthy. I can make my own healthcare decisions. I mean, I have a friend who is 50 years old who ended up in the hospital with Legionnaire's disease. She was very, very ill for at least a week. Now, it wasn't easy for her to make the decisions from a hospital bed really, really sick. If she had a healthcare surrogate designation, if she had somebody to help her with these things, then somebody could take some of that off of her and talk to the doctors for her, etc., while she wasn't well. Anything can happen at any time, and we don't always get to predict it. So it's a good idea to have someone. Now, if you are living with your spouse, if you are living with a child, etc. You may not need that because your healthcare providers will look to the nearest blood relative. They'll look to your spouse, they'll look to your children. But if they're not close, you might want to think about appointing someone. It can even be a friend. It can be a niece or a nephew. It can be anybody you want to be your healthcare surrogate. And you can have more than one. So you might want to think about, is there someone you'd like to give a healthcare surrogate designation so that they can help you, even if you're temporarily unable, or there's an emergency, and most importantly, if you're permanently unable. There are very young people who have strokes. Very young people who have strokes. And while statistics are such that, you know, the incidence of things like a stroke is higher in a certain age group, no one is immune. I did personal injury litigation for years upon years upon years. I have seen the unusual circumstances in which someone is in a catastrophic automobile accident. You know, anything can happen at any time, so it's important to have somebody able to make these kinds of decisions for you. And that would be the healthcare surrogate designation. Let's move into the next kind of piece here, which is who manages the financial matters in your household. Now, I will bet you that what I'm about to say is not the first time you've heard this. Anybody have a financial planner? Anybody have an accountant? Yeah, they probably mentioned this to you, and you may well have these documents in place, but it also bears thinking, and it bears thinking again of who makes the financial decisions in your household. I mean, who chooses the insurance, understands the bills, pays the co-pays, pays the monthly bills, pays and does the taxes, keeps track of the Social Security and the pensions, manages the bank accounts and the investments. Who's on the deeds? And who helps the kids with their finances, if you do? Now, in my family, my mother was the one who did this early on in my family. My mother's passed away now, so my dad handles his own matters. But years ago, if something had happened to my mother, he wouldn't have known what to do. And this is actually frighteningly common, that there's one person in the household who handles all of the financial matters, and the other people don't even know what the financial matters are, much less how they're managed. So that's something to think about, is to have a conversation with one another about, you know, what are you doing every month? Where are the checkbooks? Are the pensions and the annuities and the Social Security direct deposit, or do you have to deposit a check? Etc., etc., etc. It helps for people to know where that is. And please don't be like my great aunt and have a safety deposit box key with no identification of what bank it is, much less where it is. Okay, I just said that. I need to go home and put a sticker on my safety deposit key because nobody's going to know where that goes either. Now, the good news about my safety deposit box is it's in Tampa and there's nothing in it. And the only reason I have the key is because I haven't gone over there physically to return it and close the box. But nonetheless, it's important for people to know where things are. Okay. And what would happen if the person who handles these matters could not do it? So what are the matters that we have to deal with every day? And certainly it wasn't my intention that you sit here and write this all out now. But you might think about, you know, what assets do you have? Because I'll bet you're not really present to what all those are. But if you think about it, I mean, where does the income come from? Is it Social Security? Is it a pension? Is it a retirement account, an investment account? Is it each of those? What accounts do you have? Is it just checking, or is it savings, certificates of deposit, retirement accounts, IRAs, 401ks? Do you have insurance? What kind of insurance? Do you have life insurance? Do you have long-term care insurance? Do you have annuities? And then the real property. Do you only have one real property? Do you have just your homestead? Do you have other homes? Do you have investment property? Okay. And then also thinking about valuable personal property. Do you have valuable jewelry, art? Do you have valuable automobiles? Do you have a boat, a recreational vehicle? What else? Do you own a business or an interest in a business? Are you a beneficiary of a trust? You want to think about these things, because as we get into planning, you might want to plan differently for each different type of asset.